I don't know anything about Christy Martin, but this story deserved to be told. Sometimes a story is so powerful, it rises above the movie itself. And that's exactly how I felt watching Christy. I didn't know her story going in, but I walked away moved, frustrated, and ultimately impressed by her strength. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, my name is Troy. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review Christy, the movie that came out this weekend starring Sydney Sweeney in the title role as Christy Martin, a female boxer that got her rise and start in the 90s into the 2000s, the early 2010s. Now there has been a lot of controversy about this movie, specifically around Sydney herself, and it led to a really poor box office performance this weekend. But I really hope that that controversy doesn't overshadow Christy Martin's story because again, it's one that deserves to be told. Again, I don't know anything about her, and I found her story deeply emotional and heartbreaking. I mean, the things that she had to experience, the struggles that she had to overcome, a difficult relationship with her family, the abusive relationship with her husband. It was hard to watch at times, seeing her struggle and fight and persevere. But that's I think what was ultimately so inspiring about this story is seeing her overcome those things, and even as that horrific tragedy that she experienced towards the end of this movie, and seeing her overcome that was powerful in itself. And seeing that fight and determination that she wasn't going to let her abuser win. And so this is a story that's important. It's not perfect. The movie isn't perfect. We'll get to that, but it deserves to be told. And I just really hope the controversy doesn't overshadow that, and prevents people from hearing about the story like I did for the first time today. For me, I think the second half of this film is when it really finds its footing, when it really leans into those emotional aspects of her story, specifically the relationship with her husband, and we start to see her address the struggles with her family as well. I think that's when the movie really hits its stride, and that's when I felt very engaged, was when we leaned into that. Because I think that's my main critique of the first half of the film, is it was almost too fast. It kind of flew by what they were trying to communicate about her life. And I understand that to a degree because you are covering a large portion of her life and you do have to move quickly. But I do wish they would have sat in some of those tough moments that she experienced just a little bit longer. And so you could have felt that and see her respond to those situations. I think about her family at the beginning of the film, and then later on when she first starts fighting, and we start to see some of the issues with her relationship with Jim. Again, I wish they would have just sat in that a little bit longer instead of briskly moving past it, because I did feel it felt a little bit clunky at times too, the pacing and the rhythm of that. But again, once we get to the second half of the story, it really finds its footing and just is very strong all the way out throughout the rest of the movie. I thought the boxing sequences were also very well done. I thought they were very well shot. I thought they were quite action packed. I think really capture the intensity of the sport, which I kind of was impressed by them able to do that, and to see the characters step into these physical roles and do a very strong job in those action sequences. And so they're really strong. I mean, they're not on par with some of these big boxing movies that have come out the last few years, like Creed, but they don't have to be, and they don't have to be that intense. And for what they are, they work very well. And I was impressed by those sequences and thought they did a great job with the direction, the choreography. It was just really well done. I thought the performances overall were very strong. I think that you really get to see the rawness to Christy Martin's story through Sydney Sweeney's performance. Again, especially specifically in the second half of the movie, that really overcomes some of those uneven pacing that we saw throughout the first half for me. I thought she was really good. It really communicated the struggle, really communicated the strength of Christie's story. And so she was very solid. And if I'm honest, the one performance that was really hard for me was Ben Foster as Jim. Again, I don't know her relationship, I don't know the real life story, but it just felt very awkward. And maybe that's who the character is, but it just felt really awkward, the interactions with him and Sydney Sweeney in some of their dynamics and some of those scenes together. Again, that could be the character itself, and I could just be misreading that. But I have to admit that was kind of my least favorite part of the movie. But again, later on in the second half, when you start to see him kind of delve into drug abuse and further abuse, you kind of see that it really work well in capturing again just the horrific nature of those situations. And so most of the film, it didn't work. It started to work towards the end for me, but again, I think Sydney was strong enough overall to overcome some of the awkwardness, and I thought most of the supporting characters were very good too. And so performances overall pretty good, and I think again just allow you to feel and experience the weight of what she was going through. But overall, Christy is a story that's worth telling, and even though the execution isn't perfect, there's enough heart, emotion, and strength here to make it a solid movie experience. Again, I just hope it's not overshadowed by the controversy of this movie, because her story is important. The things that she has had to overcome are important, and I think inspiring for a lot of people who might be experiencing those same things. And so I hope people give this movie a chance, maybe on streaming, as again, I don't see it picking up box office wise, but maybe when it comes to streaming, people will check it out and see her story and just see how powerful it really is. And again, how important it was to have a movie like this made to share her story with people like me who've just never heard of it before. If you saw Christy this weekend, let me know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the film? If you know Christy Martin's story as well, share your thoughts below in the comments about how it was captured in this film. Were things accurate? Could have things been improved? Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe for more content, guys, and thanks for tuning in.